Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. Not sure where you're coming in from. I am Folashade Butler, wife, mother, relationship expert, and a proud member of Jesus House DC, One Flesh Ministry, under the guidance of our senior pastors, Pastor Gandhi and Pastor Amal Alayi. Thank you all for joining us today. This is our first virtual conference called Happily Ever After. This conference, Happily Ever After, is a 4-week marriage conference, and it is intended on helping you grow and helping couples with building stronger marriages to grow closer to God and to grow closer during this time. Our goal, one of our goals, is to give you expert advice to assist in those practical teachings that you need to learn to help you navigate the marriage journey and just for you all to be able to get closer, because marriage is a lifelong adventure of growing. It is not a sprint, it is a marathon. We have an amazing speaker for you all today. Pastor Kingsley comes to us. He is a crazy lover of God. He's a crazy lover of God with a heart full of compassion for people, who preaches the truth in God's word with boldness and without any reservations. Pastor Kingsley and his wife are passionate about relationships and marriages. They believe you can have the marriage of your dreams, amen, but you have to work for it. And he and his wife are happily married and blessed with children. We thank God for that. You are welcome, sir. Pastor Kingsley, off to you. We're going to give you the stage so that you can speak to our people.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate everyone for coming in today. I want to appreciate my host and the entire leadership of the church. Pastor Gandhi has been a great mentor and inspiration over the years. So this is such an honor to be sharing with the One Flesh Ministries of Jesus House. I want to appreciate all the coordinators also. So thank you guys. I'm glad. I'm so happy. Thank God for the whole lockdown thing. The world is now a small village, so we can share fellowship no matter how far we are from each other. Okay, I'm going to go right into it. Today we are talking about sex. And I mean, it still makes some of us shy to talk about sex. And I don't know why. I don't know, for whatever reason that happens, but for married people and for Christians, God is the author of sex. And my book that I'm working on, the title is Sex is Not Good, It is Great. All right. Sex is not good, it is great. And I'm going to be sharing some things out of that book today. Sex is not good, it's great. God didn't just create sex as something good. It's actually supposed to be, great. Everything God makes actually is usually beautiful, it's great, it's meant to be enjoyed, especially for married people. Sex is just a beautiful thing. Interestingly, there are people that actually just see it as a very small part of marriage. There are people that actually see sex as a very small part of marriage. But from the little I know, I don't think it's a small part of marriage. It's a major part of marriage. It's a major part of marriage. Some people just see it as the way to have children. They see children as the end point, which is not also correct. Children are great, and definitely you need to have sex to have children. But sex in itself is also one of the blessings of marriage. And hopefully we'll read one or two scriptures to see that today, in the word, from the word of God. So sex is meant to be great. It's a beautiful thing, and the interesting thing about sex is that it is usually a good barometer to measure the health of any marriage. You can use sex most times to measure the health of any marriage. That's the interesting thing. You can use the frequency of sex and the intensity of sex to measure how healthy a marriage is. Most experts have agreed that it is rare to see a marriage doing well when the sex is not doing well. All right? It's rare to see a marriage doing well without the sex in that marriage doing well. All right, so it's usually a good barometer. It's usually a good thing, a good way to measure how healthy a relationship is. Like I said, measure, you can use the frequency and the intensity. All right, you can use the frequency and the intensity. Thank God for the poll that we took before we started this session. Even though people try to say that there's no fixed amount of time you should have sex, however, their statistics can show us a bit, you know, of what a healthy frequency should be like. All right, depending, of course, I know that there are other factors like age, schedule, and all that can affect it. But on the average, we believe that every healthy marriage, every healthy couple should have sex at least once a week, at least on the average. All right, at least once a week. Now, obviously, some people tend to have more, especially if they are younger couples, if they are, you know, newlyweds, things like that. Yes, but on the average, anything going more than, you know, have once a week, as in less than once a week, rather. Anything going less than once a week, as in it takes 2 whole weeks before you guys have sex once. It takes 3 weeks before you have sex once. You know, the poll didn't give that all those options. The poll just kept us on 1 week. You know, I'm sure there are people probably that are not having sex in 1 week. There are people that are not having sex even in 1 month. And on my job as a counselor, I've actually seen people that have sex once in 2 years, only when they want to have kids. You know, I've seen those kind of things before. So those are clear signs that something is wrong. The way marriage works is that from the little signs, you can know there's a bigger problem beneath. And sex is one of those things you can use to, you know, measure. So frequency, ideally, anything, you know, less than once a week is bad. If you're not having sex at least once in a week, you know, you need to work on that. Maximum, if you think your schedule is crazy, you're keeping 2 jobs or whatever, maybe once in 2 weeks is fair. You know, that's just fair. That's falling below average, but it's fair. But anything outside of that is a sign of a bigger problem. All right, it's a sign of a bigger problem. Then intensity, of course. Do you enjoy it? Do you enjoy it, or is it just a necessary part of life, or is it something you look forward to? The reason why sex is so powerful is that, you know, it is actually where the marriage starts. The marriage starts when we actually consummate the marriage. Those of you that are experienced counselors or in the legal system, you know that one of the questions they will ask you when people want to divorce or whatever is that, has the marriage been consummated? You know, because it's a major factor. You need to, until the sex has happened, they don't see the marriage as being totally sealed. All right, and that is a scriptural fact. God in Genesis chapter 2, where the first marriage happened, God said, therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and he shall cleave to his wife, and the 2 of them shall become one flesh. That phrase, one flesh, was used again in 1 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 16, where he said, don't you know that he that joins his body with an harlot is one body? He said, the 2, said he, shall become one flesh. So if you can observe, God used exactly the same term to refer to sex that he used to refer to marriage. And what does that mean? He used the same term in 1 Corinthians 6:16 to refer to sex, and he used the same thing in Genesis 2 to refer to marriage. What is that saying? That is saying that, you know, the marriage hasn't started until the sex has happened. So, you know, I'm just trying to show you how important sex is. It is the joining. You can't play it down. Don't ever allow your mind tell you sex is not a big deal. For married couples, in marriage, sex is a big deal. That is where the joining starts. And in us becoming one and staying one, sex is also a major part of it. That coming together all the time helps our bonding as a married couple. He said, he that joins his body with an harlot is one body with the harlot. In other words, what they are saying is that sex is like a glue. They are saying if you use it wrongly, you will join to the wrong person. However, if you use it rightly in your marriage, you will join more with your spouse. It's like a glue. So you can use it to measure. If the sex is low in terms of frequency and intensity, is a sign that something else is going on in that marriage. Somebody is sleeping in terms of the marriage. And if the sex frequency is great and the intensity is great, it's also a sign that the marriage is going great. All right, very important. So you need to understand this, that it's that bonding agent. It's crucial that it goes on. Now, look at another thing again you need to think about. You know, it's difficult to have sex still being uptight. You know, the way God designed it, he made it so pleasurable. He made it so powerful. And I hope you guys know how powerful sex is. It's so powerful. it literally releases, especially when a couple orgasms and all comes to orgasm and all that, it literally releases, you know, the same kind of chemicals that drugs release in people. In other words, it can even become addictive. It is that high in pleasure, in the kind of pleasure it gives. You know, God made it that powerful and that pleasurable, so that even when a couple, you know, wants to drift apart, that sex always brings them together. It always makes them come together. It also makes them have children. It also makes them, you know, fulfill all the obligations of marriage, because it brings them together. It's difficult to have sex and still be angry with your spouse. You know, it's difficult to frown your face and have sex. It's difficult. You can do it, but it's going to be hard. Most times when you have to have sex, you have to drop your defenses. You have to let go of things. You have to, you know, you have to drop all your guard and seek to connect with another person. And that is that bonding. That's that oneness God is talking about. It helps us to come closer and closer to bond. So it's such a beautiful thing. It's a bonding agent. It's something God designed to keep homes together, to keep two people glued together as one. But however, there are still a lot of people that are not, they are not enjoying the real pleasure of sex. Yeah, in fact, I heard some counselors tell some people one time that sex is not meant to be enjoyed, that it's just for children. And that is not true. If you look at the Bible, as a matter of fact, in Proverbs chapter 5, verse 15 to 19, they said, drink water out of your own system. You know, drink water, because water kind of quenches your thirst. They said, drink water out of your system. And let her breast, talking about your wife, let your wife satisfy you, let the husband satisfy. In other words, so there's a part of it that is for pleasure. It's not meant to just be endured, it's meant to be enjoyed. All right, I need to understand that. And it's one of the most beautiful gifts that God gave us as human beings. One of the most beautiful gifts God gave us as human beings. Let me read it here. It said, drink water from your own cistern. It said, flowing water from your own well. It says, should your springs be scattered abroad, should streams of water in the streets, say, let them be for yourself alone and not for strangers with you. Let your fountain be blessed and rejoice in the wife of your youth. It said, a lovely day and a graceful to say, let her breast fill you at times with delight. It said, be intoxicated always in her love. Do you see this kind of terms? You know, they're saying be intoxicated. You know, let it fill you in times of delight. Basically, there's a part of pleasure in sex. All right, it's meant to be something so enjoyable, and because of the impact of sex on your mind, you know, it opens some pathways in your brain, some neural pathways in your brain that makes your partner, you know, you guys actually get so connected at a height that nothing else, you know, can ever make you connected. That's why marriage is the strongest union that there is. You know, marriage is the only place you can actually be one with another human being in the three levels that human beings are. You know, human beings are spirit, soul, and body. You know, you can be one with other people in every other area, but marriage is the only place where you can be one with somebody, both spirit, soul, and body. You know, there's no other relationship that is like that. So when the Bible said, if two of you shall agree as touching anything that you're on earth, marriage is that strongest level where you can agree in every aspect of life. All right. Let me touch a few other things. So I've mentioned healthy frequency should be around 1 week, once a week at least. Shouldn't be less, shouldn't be more. As it can be less or more, but that is the average. And statistically, they found out that couples that have at least once a week are happier, you know, than couples that have, you know, once in 2 weeks or once in 3 weeks. All right, it shows that there's a bonding, there's a consciousness of that union. Okay, there are 3 kinds of sex you can have in a marriage. There's the one we call dutiful sex. Dutiful sex, very important. Duty is from duty. Dutiful sex. You see that in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, where it says that the husband has no right over his own body, and the wife too has no right over her own body. That the body belongs to, you know, the husband. Yes, the husband's body belongs to the wife's body belongs to the husband. That if you render to your partner due benevolence, okay, due is linked to duty. It means it's your obligation to offer that your body to your spouse. So the first kind of sex is dutiful sex. This kind of sex is the sex you have sometimes when you're not in the mood. Because one of the things that stops couples from enjoying sex in their marriages. I'm not in the mood. I'm tired. Things like that. God made it clear that he doesn't really want us to live that way. He says, look, give to your partner due benevolence. This is in 1 Corinthians 7, okay, from verse 2 to 5. You see that. He said, render to your partner due benevolence. All right? Due benevolence. So it's saying, look, do it like a duty. See that your body is not even your own. All right? That means there are times you are not in the mood for sex, but you realize that your partner wants sex, or you realize that you guys have gone a while without sex, and it's good to just let it be there, so always give that, kind of dutiful sex, all right? Dutiful sex. This is important because some people's reason for not having sex, I'm tired, I'm not in the mood, and so when I came back. No, if you're a married couple, sex, the same way you guys provide for the house, financially or food or whatever, that's how you also should provide sex. It's a part of your due benevolence from duty, all right? Dutiful sex. So sex is not tied to only when I'm in the mood. Very important. It's not tied to only when I'm in the mood. You might not be in the mood all the time. That's why you're a human being. You have other issues to deal with in life. But however, you must do your obligation. It's like taking care of your kids. You don't wait till you're in the mood to take care of your kids. It's part of your duties as a parent, all right? That's how it is in marriage sexually. Okay, number one. So the second kind of sex is beautiful sex. Beautiful sex. So beautiful sex, of course, as the name implies, is beautiful. That's the kind of sex where you guys have time, both of you are in the mood, both of you are enjoying it. You kiss each other for a long time. There's enough foreplay. Both parties are fully pleasured. You take you go the full length, all right? The whole thing, like my wife would say, the whole enchilada. You put everything in there, all right? So that's beautiful sex, and that's the best one. But to be honest with you, it doesn't happen all the time. For those of you that are married for a while, you already know this, that beautiful sex doesn't happen all the time. Because of the circumstances of life, we have children, we have bills, we have tough schedules. We don't have time for beautiful sex all the time. Beautiful sex usually have enough time that day. So you're not rushing to work, you're not being interrupted, you have beautiful sex, all right? Kids are not disturbing you that day or whatever, maybe you send them to grandma or something, but beautiful sex, all right? These things will happen. Then the third one is what we normally call quickies. All right, quickies are the sex you have when you just have to have sex, but no time for kissing, no time for any long story. Everything can happen under 5 minutes or less. Now, as married couples, you need to also know that, because there are times that's all you have. You have a crazy week, you have a crazy schedule. There's a conference, there's work, whatever going on, and you are discovering that long periods of time is going without sex. You see, sex in a marriage is almost like prayer. It's almost like prayer. If you're a Christian and you go 1 week without prayer, your whole Christian life is under threat. You can't tell what you're going to do when you go out there. When you're faced with temptation, you might not react the right way. That's what Jesus told them. He said, can't you pray for 1 hour? He knew that in the day of challenge, if their prayer life was weak, they won't give the right reaction. If you notice, none of them reacted well when the challenges came. So it's that same with sex. If you guys go on and on without sex in the name of being busy, having kids and all that, it's not good for the health of your relationship. It's not good also for the whatever you guys might face out there, because the moment you start drifting apart, because that's what sex is, bonding, bringing you together. The moment you start drifting apart like that, it will show wherever you're going. Next thing that can happen is that you can start having emotional affairs, because you're not getting that connection. That need of your life is not being met in your marriage. So once in a while, you might need to have quickies where you just have sex and it's just purely sex. And you see, most times, I know some people sometimes want the emotional sex. That's why I said that's not the first. Quickie is not the first thing. There's beautiful sex. There's beautiful sex. But once in a while, you just need to have sex for the sake of sex. And, it's not the long story one. It's just everything is abridged. In quickies, everything can happen under 2 minutes. And it can happen anywhere, okay? Close your ear if you don't like what I'm saying. All right, let's move forward. So if sex is such a beautiful thing, so why do some people not enjoy it? Now, for you as a believer, every time you find out you're not enjoying any of the blessings of God, it's important you ask why. It's important you ask why. Anytime you're not enjoying what God, called the blessing, it's important you ask why. Be careful of anything straining you. in 1 Corinthians, the Bible mentioned it that even when you want to fast, the Bible said it there, that even when you want to fast, said, take permission from your spouse, so that you say this period, I won't be able to have sex because I'm fasting. And please, let's say this here. It's not all fast that involves fasting sex, okay? It's not all fast. Sometimes we fast our phones. Sometimes we can fast our television. Sometimes we can fast something else we like. Sometimes we fast food. There are many things you can fast, okay? Fasting is not only food, okay? You need to understand that. Fasting is just separating yourself. Fasting is depriving yourself of some pleasure so that you focus on God. So it might not be food sometimes. So it's not all sex that involves, not all fasting that involves sex, okay? But they're saying even if the fasting you want to do involves sex, please let it be with consent and let it be for a short time. This is in 1 Corinthians 7. So let it be for a short time, all right? So that you will not be tempted. So that's the same concept I was saying about quickies, that sometimes staying apart too long puts you in the path of temptation, especially if one or both parties have a high sexual libido, all right? Staying apart for long will put you under a threat of temptation. Now let's move forward. So every time as a believer you're not enjoying any of the blessings of God, it's important you ask why. If God has made anything a blessing in His word and you are not enjoying it, always ask yourself, why am I not enjoying something God has promised me in this word? So for married couples, there are a few reasons why you might not be enjoying sex in your marriage. I'll run through some of them. Number one, maybe one or both parties have had issues with sexual abuse when they were young. As a counselor, I've seen many people like that. They're frigid today in their married life, and it's traceable to something that happened to them when they were young. Maybe they were sexually abused, molested, or things like that. Now, if you have gone through something like that and it's affecting your marriage, it's important you talk to your spouse about it. It's important. I've met couples that could not kiss their husbands, could not kiss their wives, because somebody, when they were young, as a child, as a little girl, somebody kissed them, by an adult forced them to kiss them. That was sexual molestation. So till now, when she got married, she couldn't kiss her husband because she related kissing as something negative, right? Maybe if you have been raped or things like that, any form of sexual abuse or molestation, you need to get help. Don't punish your spouse, with whatever is happening in your past. It's important you talk about it with your spouse and get professional help, all right? So that you can be healed and come back to enjoying sex. And the truth is that no matter what you have gone through, whether it's rape or molestation or whatever, you can actually still be healed and start enjoying sex. You can. You just have to dedicate yourself to putting in the work. You can. All right. So sexual abuse. Number two, negative programming. Some people have just had negative programming. Some people have just been told that sex is an unholy thing. They've heard that all their life. Sex is unholy. Don't talk. In churches, most times we don't talk about sex. We're afraid to talk about sex. I recently shot a full video titled "What Nobody Tells You About Sex." I mentioned 10 things people don't tell you about sex, and it's going to be on YouTube soon. So the issue is that generally in church, I'm also a pastor, so I'm guilty of this. Generally in church, we don't like to talk about sex. Sometimes because there's a mixed multitude, sometimes there are young children in the audience, so we just generally don't talk about it. However, it's an important part of life because these young kids are also learning about it from outside. If they're not going to learn it from inside, the parents are too shy to teach it. Their mates are too ignorant to teach it right. All right. So a lot of confusion. So negative programming. Have you been told that sex is bad? It's an unholy thing. It's just something you just do for children. Don't think about it too much. Don't talk about it too much. So if you have been programmed negatively like that, it can affect you. Sometimes even negative programming can also be over negative programming in terms of that you have built a desire, an inordinate desire. When people want to do strange things in their sexual bed, like choking each other or whatever like that, it's something you have programmed. You need to understand, as a human being, you are usually conditioned. All right, everything you're believing now, you were conditioned to believe it. So sometimes people have been programmed negatively to about sex or about some aspects of sex. Some don't believe in there are people that don't believe in oral sex. There are people that believe in oral sex. There are people that don't believe in different things. In other words, be careful of your programming. Basically, it depends on how you're programmed. Make sure that is not affecting how you see sex. There are some ladies that have been programmed not to enjoy sex. They've been programmed to even believe that you shouldn't enjoy sex. That it's just for bearing children. So if you show your husband you're enjoying too much, he will think you're a prostitute. There are guys that have been programmed not to know that they're supposed to pleasure their wives. All kinds of programming. Some have even been circumcised as women. So those things affect them. They're real. Number three, I'm trying to be fast so that I cover as much as I can. Number three, age and health issues can also be what's affecting you. All right, that as you grow old. The interesting thing about marital sex most times is that the guy usually starts out being the most active sexually, physically. Usually, right? I know it's not all the time, but usually the guy is usually hotter at the beginning. The woman is slower because women take time to adjust. You know, so as they grow in the marriage, when they hit 30s and above, you know, and going towards 40s and co, the woman has become more, her libido grows at that stage. For many reasons. One of the reasons is because she's now more comfortable, you know, with sex. At the beginning, most women are conscious of themselves, conscious of their body. You know, the man is one that is usually active, but as they grow, the man's testosterone begins to drop. You know, so he might not be as active. Then the woman, you know, becomes more active. So, you know, they're now wondering how to cope. So yes, age affects sometimes health. The state of your health also affects your sex. The next one, schedule. Your schedule affects your sex. If both of you are busy keeping 2 jobs, you know, taking kids for programs or for their lessons or whatever it is, can affect you. Then next one, strains. Strains in your relationship can affect sex. All right. If you guys are not having peace in your relationship, of course, the sex will not be great. If there is unresolved issues, you have quarrels you've not resolved, the walls are building. You see, quarrels are like bricks. Every time you quarrel, you put one. Every time you quarrel, you put one. So before you know it, a wall will build, an emotional wall will build between both of you. So unresolved issues, try and resolve it, okay? If you need to see counselors, resolve the unresolved issue. It can even be issues of infidelity in the past. One party has cheated and you guys have not really dealt with it. You know, there's what is called infidelity recovery counseling. You see, you need to know that. So don't just say, oh, sorry, forgive me. It doesn't work like that. You need to go through some process so that make sure both parties are healed. Both the offended and the offender needs to be healed. So unresolved issues can affect the relationship. Next one, laziness and unwillingness to pleasure your partner. Some people are just lazy. They don't want to learn about sex. They don't want to go the extra mile to make their partner happy. So laziness and unwillingness to pleasure your partner. Then the next one, you know, mental barriers. All right, mental barriers. Some people just feel, oh, I don't look good. It's why women do that a lot. They feel, oh, in fact, there's some couples we counsel that after marriage, the woman can't have sex if the light is on because she just doesn't like how her body looks. You know, to say, I put up all the lights before I can have sex. You see, mental things like that are going on. In such cases, you need to build up her self-esteem. You need to let her understand that, you know, you are beautiful to me all the time. You know, some men think that their sexual organ is small. So that affects them. They think, oh, you know, my sexual organ is too small. Nothing I can do. So mental barrier. So you need to help them know, look, I like it this way. I can enjoy the other ways you can pleasure me other than with size. You know, in other words, that one has to do with your esteem. So you have to build up the other person's, you know, self-esteem. Okay. In marital sex, generally, you need to ask a question. Because people ask me all the time. Maybe I'll say that when I'm doing the Q&A. Let me leave that. When I'm doing the Q&A, I will answer that question. But take note of this statement that in marital sex, the key word you need to ask, or the key phrase you need to ask is, does it bring us closer? Does it bring us closer? People ask me, can we use sex toys? People ask me, can we watch pornography? You need to ask the question. When we get to the Q&A, I'll deal with this, but I'm just dropping it here. You need to ask the question, does this thing bring us closer together as a couple? Or does it, you know, actually put focus on somebody or something else other than the two of us? So I'll get there when I do the Q&A. Okay, so take this statement, very important. Those of you that are writing, take this statement, very important. This statement is, sexual compatibility is not discovered, but developed. Sexual compatibility is not discovered, but developed. Sexual compatibility is not discovered, but it is developed. Many single people, when they're looking for who to marry, they're saying, oh, the reason why they want to have premarital sex is because they're looking for compatibility, sexual compatibility. And the truth is that real sexual compatibility is not discovered, it is developed. Because it takes work, it takes a few things to put that sexual compatibility, you know, together. All right, so I'm going to share this as we start to round up. How can I build that strong sexual bond, sexual compatibility with my partner? There are a few things you can do. I'll give you 5 of them. You know, then we'll go to the Q&A sessions. I'll give you 5 of those things, and I'll go to the Q&A where we can. I'm seeing many questions, and I hope you are taking note of these questions because we're going to delve into them once I'm done with this short sharing. We'll go into the questions. All right. Sexual compatibility is not discovered, but it's developed. And how do you build that sexual compatibility or build that sexual flow? How do you build it? A few things. Number one, build a great relationship, build a great emotional connection. In other words, the state of your relationship has a way of affecting the sex in the relationship. All right. It is intimacy that builds sex. It's not really sex that builds intimacy. So if we have a good emotional bond, there's a higher chance we will enjoy the sex. Many people just want to treat sex as a separate thing in marriage. No. If we're enjoying the marriage, then the sex is likely to also be good. Okay, so intimacy builds sex. It's not sex that builds intimacy. So what am I trying to say? Have a good emotional bond. I'm talking about how to build in sex life. Have a good emotional bond. How do I build intimacy? How do I build that bond, emotional bond? Very simple, and especially for guys, very simple. There are about 4 things. There are many things, but I just touched 4 because half fast. Talk. Always talk. Having good rapport helps intimacy. Talk. During the day, talk. When you go to work, don't just see your children in the morning and talk again only when you get back from work. No, in the course of the day, talk, send chats, give a phone call, catch up on gist, how is work going, what's happening. Even if you don't have anything to say, just keep in touch. Talk is important. Number 2, touch. Always touch each other. Always touch each other, and this has been scientifically proven. I don't like when I see a couple in the house, a couple in their house 24 hours, and they don't touch each other except when they want to have sex. I'm talking about non-sexual touch. You must touch each other. Little touches here and there. Hug, a pet, a pat, a pat on the back, a peck, whatever. Hug, they must be touching. Just hold your partner around the waist, just touch his shoulder. You must be touching each other. It builds intimacy between 2 couples. All right. Number 1, talk. Number 2, touch. Non-sexual touch. You don't only touch when you want to have sex. Touch all through the day. Touch each other. Little touches here and there. Number 3, time. Spend time together. Intimacy can't build without time. Spend time together. All right. So spend time talking. If she's in the kitchen cooking, go hang out with her. If he's in the garage doing something with the car, go hang out with him. All right. So spending time together helps to build intimacy. Number 4, take note. Take note of your partner's needs. It's important to take note of their needs. You see, if your wife is stressed out with stuff, she can't be great in the bed at night. So if you need to help her out, her car is bad or something, help her out. She's stressed in the kitchen, help her out. She's stressed at work. Give that companionship, give that help. Take note of her mood. There's a book somebody wrote and said that sex for women starts in the kitchen in the morning, not at night in the bed. Because men can get sexually aroused very quickly. Women are not usually like that. So if you're a guy, take note. If you're a woman too, take note of your husband's mood and what is going on in his life. All right, take note. It's important you do that. Take note. Okay. Next point. Number 2, communicate about sex. Communicate about sex. All right, very important. Communicate about sex. Communicate about sex. All right. If you're going to have great sex, you have to communicate. You can't just achieve great sex without talking. In other words, talk about sex is what I'm saying. This is not talking about football or politics. Talk about sex. This communication about sex. Talk about sex. So ask your partner, what are the things you enjoy sexually? What are the things you enjoy? What do I do right? And what should I stop doing? What should I do more of? Do you like us to kiss more? Do you like us to do more foreplay? Do you like us to have sex in different places? Communicate. Talk about your fantasies in a non-judgmental atmosphere. Please, don't let somebody talk and say, Brother John, hey, are you still a Christian? You used to pray in church. I thought it's only prayer. Don't do those kind of things, okay? Don't do those kind of things. When it comes to sex in marriage, feel free to express yourself, okay? It's your marital bed. It's your marital bed. You are free. So don't do this kind of, Sister Jane, with this worship, you are thinking this kind of thing. These are corrupt. Don't let corrupt communication come out of you. Don't do those kind of things. All right, you must communicate about sex. Very important. So number 1, build an emotional connection. Number 2, communicate about sex. So feel free to talk about your fantasies, your desires, your dreams, ask questions. Say, what should I do? What should I do more? What do you enjoy? Non-judgmental answer. Number 3, observe. Observe. So sexually, sometimes you need to observe your partner. And you, the partner, also make sure you give enough response for your partner to know what he's doing right or wrong. So when you are in the course of having sex, if he's touching somewhere you don't like, give a signal for him to know, no, don't touch like that. If he's doing something you do like, moan, give sounds and body movement that will make him know, oh, stay there longer, or yes, I like that, I enjoy that. You must communicate. Don't only communicate when you are unhappy. Communicate also when you are happy about something that he or she is doing. Okay, so observe your partner during sex. Observe your partner, during sex. See what they're enjoying, what they're not enjoying. What you did that they liked, and share. Because a lot of times we like to read each other's minds. No, find out. go the extra mile to demonstrate that you really enjoyed something, okay? Because some people, when they're having sex, they are mute, totally mute. It's like a graveyard. It's as quiet as anything. No, sound effects matters a lot, all right? Sound effects matter a lot. Imagine a movie without sound. Do you know, those of you that watch movies, do you know that the way you know it's a horror scene? In fact, sometimes you can already know when something bad is going to happen in a movie because of the sound. Dun, 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 dun. You just know, they're going to kill somebody now. It helps the whole feel of the movie. We're human beings, those things stir us up. So don't just be as quiet and then you're enjoying something, but you just resist. We say resisting, you just hold yourself in the no. No. Let your partner know that you're enjoying this thing. It's okay to moan. It's okay to make sounds. As human beings, we are audiovisual in our nature. What we see and what we hear affects us. So give the body language. It's good for your partner to see you're enjoying it, that you're not just there suffering through it. You're not just grumbling. All right. So that's number 3, non-verbal communication. Observe and all that. Number 4, be deliberate. Number four, be deliberate about meeting the needs of your partner. Be deliberate about it. You can't have great sex by chance. You have to be deliberate. Okay? You have to be deliberate. So, what do I mean by this? Actually, go out of your way to find out what your partner needs, like I mentioned in the point before. Then go ahead and do it. Be deliberate. You're not going to stumble into it. Be deliberate. So, once you have found out your partner likes something, please go out of your way to meet that need. Your wife wants you to kiss more. Go out of your way to do that. You need to do that, whether or not you like it. Your wife wants you to touch her more, or your husband wants you to touch her more in a certain way. You must be deliberate about meeting that need. All right? You must deliberate about meeting that need. For instance, there's some partners that like you to talk dirty to them when you're having sex, to talk, and to call them certain names or whatever. See, it's on your marriage bed. Let me whisper this part. It's on your marriage bed. Yeah? There are very little things that are wrong in your marriage. Just little. Most of the things are not wrong. As long as both of you like it. If you notice, then God intentionally didn't go into details of what you can or cannot do in your marriage bed. There's a reason. There's a reason. Because he said, look, it's up to both of you. I dash you. Do what you like. So it's difficult for you to want to bring somebody to come and help you officiate as a referee on your marriage bed all the time. It doesn't work that way. It's your marriage bed. Go ahead and pleasure each other. It's your duty in marriage. So go out of the way. Your partner likes you to talk in a certain way, likes you to say certain things. I've heard all kinds of things as a counselor. But the truth is that, go ahead and be deliberate. Your partner wants you to tell her, oh, you are so beautiful. To tell her, oh, I'm enjoying the sex with you. You are the best sex I've ever had. All those, there are things people like to hear or whatever. And they have been programmed that way, okay? As long as it's not a sinful thing, as long as it's not, maybe we'll get to the Q&A, we'll go into those things. But, what does your partner want? They want the lights on, they want the lights off, they want music to be playing, they don't want music to be playing, whatever it is. Be deliberate. Go out of your way, to meet the needs of your partner, as they want it. They want more foreplay, they want more kissing. Be deliberate. And number 5 in closing, be willing to get help. If you're not enjoying the sex in your marriage, be willing to get help. One of the biggest challenges in marital sex is laziness and unwillingness. That's the biggest one. There are a lot of other things that can hinder great sex in your marriage, like life stress. You maybe a couple that is struggling to have children, so they are going through stress. So it might affect the sexual pleasure. Yes. Maybe the guy is going through stress at work, the woman is going through stress at work, stress with paying bills. So yes, life stress can affect your sexual passion. But the biggest thing that I've seen that affects sexual enjoyment is laziness and an unwillingness, to actually put in the effort, that unwillingness. So don't be that kind of person. Go out of your way. No matter what challenge you're facing, if you guys are willing to get help, if you're willing to, get help to be better. What do I mean by that? If you guys need to get knowledge, maybe it's a knowledge gap. There are a lot of good, wholesome, holy Christian materials out there on sex. A lot of them. You see some on the internet, you see some in bookstores. A lot of good Christian, books on sex. I'm planning to do a video on sex soon because I've wedded a lot of virgins and I discovered I don't have so many materials I can offer them. And the virgin they don't even know where to start from. They don't know what to touch. So I discovered I have to just shoot a video with diagrams, cartoon diagram, not real life, to show them, look, touch here, don't touch here. So the point is, go out of your way to get help. Don't just sit down and say, oh, we're not having great sex and let's manage it. No, sex is important in your marriage. It's a very important part. Though it's not a secondary part. It's part of the primary parts. It's part of the core causes. It's important in marriage. Good sexual life is important. It's a bonding that is bringing you together, all the time. It's difficult to keep malice when you guys have great sex. It's difficult to always frown around the house when you have great sex. In fact, a lot of people that are giving you stress in the office is bad sex at home that's even causing it. They are not sexually satisfied. You'll be amazed how irritable you'll be if you're not sexually satisfied, and you'll be amazed how happy you'll be if you are sexually satisfied. The whole world will just be okay. You won't mind the problems in the world if you're sexually satisfied. So go out of your way to get help if you need to get help. If it's a knowledge gap, get books, check the internet. If it's, of course, like I said, good wholesome material. If it's a health issue, you can go and see a specialist. There's some people that maybe they have erectile dysfunction, quick ejaculation. Get medical. There are medical ways to solve some of those things. Be willing, because sometimes I notice, especially men, are not willing to go and get help. You're having erectile dysfunction or something like that, but your wife is complaining, but you just want to be macho because it's something affecting your ego. I understand that is affecting your ego, but you see, your wife already loves you, and that woman deserves to be happy. Same thing if you're a woman that is causing that too. Your husband deserves to be happy. So be willing to go and see a specialist. All right. Be willing to go and get help. See a specialist, get help. See a counselor, a sex counselor. There are sex specialists out there that can help you navigate, whatever challenge you're facing, whether it's erectile dysfunction or, lack of knowledge or a psychological issue that is making one party not to enjoy sex. There was a story one time of one boy that when he was young, as a teenager, he was masturbating. And the house where they were living there was all these wooden houses where the noise, is you can hear everything. So every time he's masturbating, because the way the bed upstairs was, the whole house would hear that he's masturbating on the bed. And they were laughing at him. So what happened to him was that he started now going outside the house into the bush, into the farm to go and masturbate because he didn't want the noise in the house. So he would wear his cowboy boots and go and masturbate. But every time he was masturbating, he was looking down. He was always looking at his boots, and he got to a stage where he started, because that's what happens when you're having sex and you are getting to orgasm most times, whatever you're looking at. That's why it's good when you're having sex sometimes to look at each other. It's very good. And that's why, the missionary style of sex is still very important. Now, of course, you're free to do different positions, definitely. But I'm saying any position that allows you to look into each other's eyes or look at each other is very good, because whatever you picture is in your mind. Joseph or Jacob in the Bible taught us this principle by the Holy Ghost. When in there to multiply cattle in a certain color, he cut wood in a certain place where the cattle come to drink and mate. And as they were mating, the colors they were looking at was what color they were producing, as opposed to the color of their skin. Totally something unusual, but it's also psychologically correct. Because as the boy kept looking at his boots masturbating, he started linking sexual pleasure to those boots. And years even into his marriage, he could not enjoy sex or have orgasm except he wore his cowboy boots, even though he was married. So there are psychological issues like that about sex that many people don't know. All right, so you need to be willing to see a professional, see an expert and get help. All right, I hope this has been helpful. All right, I'm going to be ready to take some question and answers.
Giving you a huge round of applause, because look, the chat has been on fire. Somebody even said that there's repentance and deliverance today with your message. We have tons and tons of questions, so I will start with the ones that I'm seeing more frequently. I've gotten some personal ones. I see some in the chat. And just as a reminder for everybody who is on today, we are up to 240 people. Thank God for that. Please put your questions in the Q&A section. We'll be doing as many of them as we can. So, Pastor Kingsley, the first question we have is oral sex a sin? I know you talked about it very briefly, and you said whatever is in your marital bed, you can do as long as it's not sinful. So let's start with oral sex. What's your position on that?
Okay, I'm usually quite careful about these things these days. The reason is because I've preached in places where they didn't invite me back because I said what I thought. So first I'll say, it depends on what your church is teaching. But if you ask me, the question I ask people that ask me that, I'll say, can you use your mouth on your wife's back? They'll say yes. I say, can you use your mouth on your wife's stomach? They'll say yes. I say, can you use your mouth on your wife's thighs? They'll say yes. I say, can you use your mouth on your wife's knees? They'll say yes. I say, well, it pretty much looks like you can use your mouth on any part of your wife's body. So that's how I usually answer the question. So that's what I think. I think you can use your mouth not just on your wife's mouth, on your husband's mouth. I believe that you can pleasure your spouse, any way they like it, as long as you're not violating any law of nature, you're not hurting anybody. I think oral sex is okay. That's what I feel. There are some people that can't get sexually satisfied just by intercourse. And I think that's pretty much obvious. So I think it's okay,
Yeah. So Pastor Kingsley, I said it, as long as you are comfortable in your marital bed to do that, it's okay. And I agree, sir. The second question that we'll go to is something you mentioned, that you said something along the lines of you are trying to figure out what materials to give two virgins, two newly married people in their marriage, some resources, something to tell them about how to engage in dutiful, beautiful, and quickie sex. So what tips would you give two virgins just entering marriage for the first time?
Okay, like I said, I won't have to shoot a full video on it, because you really have to walk them around the basic biology to know what organs are erogenous, what parts of the body is sexual and all that. So it's a full long lecture that will need diagrams and all that. But the key is to relax, explore each other's body. Don't be in a hurry to have performance anxiety. Nobody has great sex all the time, and that's what people need to learn. Yeah. Forget about the movies you watch. Those movies are not real. They have cameramen there. They have, they have directors there. So it's acting. It's not real. Nobody has great sex all the time. It takes time to learn and explore your partner's body. You make mistakes. You have some down days, just like any other thing you do. Even footballers, they don't have great days all the time. So be willing to explore, learn from every session you have, and keep getting better as you explore each other's body. And that's just it.
So somebody is asking, is masturbation wrong? And then also we're getting questions about sex toys. So masturbating and sex toys, are those sinful things in marriage? What's your advice there?
Okay, great. If you noticed during the lecture, I said I'll use a phrase when I start doing Q&A. And that phrase is that, does it bring us closer? Yeah. It's very important. Sex is about love, really. Even though the world has made sex look casual and just for pleasure, but that's not for us as believers, especially. We need to understand that the Creator's Manual makes us understand that sex is actually about two people that are in love. It's about love. It's about giving. It's not really about just taking. So any act that is selfish in nature, any act that is one-sided, any act that is actually drifting us apart, and not bringing us closer to each other, usually is not good. Usually is not good. So if you ask me, is masturbation wrong? Masturbation is somebody pleasing themselves, So usually it's one-sided, it's selfish, it's not bringing us together, it's actually taking us apart. It means I can do without you. That's what masturbation is. And usually in the thought of your masturbation is somebody else, usually not your spouse. So you see that it's not bringing us closer. It's taking us apart. So that's how you know it's not good. All right. Okay. And you're also conditioning yourself in a way. Remember, we're all conditioned. So when you're masturbating, you're conditioning yourself in a way to enjoy sex a certain way, different from with your spouse. What you should be doing is to programming yourself to enjoy sex with your spouse. So the same questions applies to sex toys. Same thing. This toy, is this something for? Let me give an example. People use ice cream on each other. That's fine, because with the ice cream, I'm licking the ice cream off your partner's body, or vice versa. So it's bringing us close. But if the toy you're using, if it's something that is taken away, not bringing us close, then you need to be careful of it. People ask me things like, oh, can we use pornography to spice it up? Same question. In pornography, we are focusing on other people, not on each other. So it's not bringing us close. It's taking us apart. And when you put those pictures in your mind, especially for men, because a man's mind works differently. When he's watching other ladies, that have bodies that have been worked on, that have bodies that have not had kids, he's going to negatively compare it, with that of his wife. So it's not bringing us together. That's always a key factor. Yeah. Always ask yourself, this act, is it bringing us together, or is it taking us apart? Very important. It will answer most of your questions if you understand that. All right. So that's what I think.
I love it. Okay. So the next question. There are several people on the line who say that they haven't had sexual connection with their spouse, and they're trying to figure out if they're still okay. So they still laugh, they still enjoy time together, but intimacy is very difficult. So how do you counsel somebody who is in that situation where there seems to be intimate connection in other places, but sex is not one of those?
Okay, I'm sure it will be, the problem will be somewhere in all the things I mentioned today. But, they might need to talk to someone to find out why. Like I said earlier on, if you're not enjoying anything that God gave, you must ask why. Don't just take it for granted that, oh, it's okay, it's normal. It's not, don't settle. And many people, the truth is that many people, especially married couples, we settle a lot. People just find out, I'm not enjoying this thing, let me just settle. That's not the best. It's not as if you will die. You will not die, but you are just not getting God's best for your life.
Yeah.
If other people are enjoying this thing, then you should enjoy it too. So we need to find out, trace why. There must be a reason. Must be one of these things I've listed today. Maybe your programming. Maybe what you are used to. Are you getting satisfaction somewhere else? Through another means. Are you getting that your sexual intimacy need being met either through novels, sexual novels, pornography? Somebody at work or somebody you're chatting sexy chat with. Something is going on somewhere, because it's not normal for us to be emotionally connected and not also be physically connected. It's not normal. All right, something must be going on somewhere.
Yep. I think that's a wonderful answer. On that same line of something not being normal, we got a question about not knowing, partners not knowing how to pleasure their spouse, meaning not getting them to orgasm. So how do you tell, or what do you tell a wife or even a husband who is not getting orgasm? How do you counsel them to counsel their spouse?
Okay, they just need to talk. They need to relax. If you are having performance anxiety, that in itself will just not help. So you need to relax. You need to stop setting high goals for yourself that, we're going to orgasm today, every day. No, just enjoy sex. The more you are relaxed, the more the tendency or the potential for you to actually get orgasm. Then make sure your partner knows how to work your body. So you guys must talk. You must practice. So, hey, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. Does he need to stay longer? Does he need to do it, in a softer way or in a harder way? You guys must talk and find out, explore your own bodies together. That's what marriage is for. Nobody should be shy, and don't be in a hurry to finish the whole assignment that day. Wherever you stop today, continue tomorrow with the knowledge you've gained yesterday and add it to today's own and keep moving. You have your whole life to do this, so there's no hurry. But you must learn. Yeah. You must find out, why am I not enjoying it? Do I have mental barriers? Am I thinking too much? Am I overthinking it? Do I think I'm not beautiful? Do I think my size is too small? There's always a why. Basically, that's why I said you must ask why.
Yeah.
You must know, but there's a why. And the real job is finding that why and now proceeding to deal with that why. Is it an esteem issue? Do we need to talk each other into it? Do we need to prepare more for sex? For some people, they start too early. Maybe they need to have sexual kind of talks all day. They need to get themselves in the mood longer. You must find out why, because your body is unique too. You must find out why. Is there something we need to do more? But there's always a why, and you are meant to enjoy sex. All right, you are meant to enjoy it. So if you're not enjoying it, talk and find out the why and learn. Is it the way? Does he know how to touch you right? Yeah. There's a way to touch you, and like I said, there are coaches that can teach these things properly in more details. Something we cannot be able to achieve here. Yeah. But there are coaches that can teach you that specifically, that touch this way, touch this particular area, and you will get your achieved goal. But don't have performance anxiety. You must not finish the whole assignment in one.
So let's talk about differences in libido. So there's a question about, I am hypersexual. I enjoy sex. I have a high libido. My partner is at close to none or even at zero. What are some tips that we can employ in our marriage? Okay,
we need to find the why. Like I said, you can't really help anything or anybody without knowing why. There's no use for us to start shooting solutions, that are not relevant. So find out why. Is low libido? Is it something that is happening because of his health, or he's just naturally low libido, or stress mentally? Your low libido is coming from somewhere. We need to first trace where it is coming from. Now, when we find it, is this something we can solve medically or psychologically or spiritually or however? You see, when we know the why, then we can proceed with the kind of solutions we need. Then lastly on that, then we need to find the compromise, because you are the kind of person that have sex 5 days in a week. You are married to somebody that wants to have sex once in 5 weeks. That disparity is too much. It's going to be unhealthy for your marriage.
Right.
Somebody's going to be tempted. So can we find a compromise? Maybe this guy can't do every week. Let's assume for any reason he can't do every week. Can we do once in 2 weeks as opposed to once in 5 weeks? So we have to the willingness to find that compromise that both of us can be bearable. While we're still seeking help. All right. If it's a medical issue, thank God for drugs. They have a lot of pills today and drugs today that can help people perform better. So be willing to get help, and find a place of compromise. You can't just say this is the way I am. You go and sort yourself out. Those things breaks a marriage. So don't just leave your partner hanging. Find a compromise. I can't do once a week or can I do once in 2 weeks? Can I also look for other ways to pleasure my spouse? If it's not intercourse, you can find a compromise. Like I said earlier on, the biggest problems come laziness and unwillingness. If you are willing to work at it, we know that human beings are not perfect. You can't always have a perfect result. But if you are willing to put in the work and your partner gets that feeling that you are trying, it goes a long way. As opposed to you just saying, oh, I'm tired of just talking about sex. Everything is not sex. I'm thinking about bills. I'm thinking about work. All those excuses don't count because sex is part of your obligations, due benevolence, as the scripture says. So be willing to put in the work. That's what I'm saying.
I love it. There are a few parents, well, maybe not a few, but there's several. I have a few questions, but I'm sure there are several people on the line who are parents, and
Yes.
they have little ones. So they don't have teenagers, they don't have adults, they have very small kids who are often in the way, and they block progress in this area. So, what do you tell our parents of young kids about timing and schedule and how to get that sexual pleasure when they have these kids in the way?
Yes, you just have to plan around those kids. Plan around the kids when they are asleep, when they are at school. When they are doing something. Is there someone that can be with them? Is there, as adults, once you know you want to do something, you just plan around it. You just plan around it. It's actually a thing, that the kids will be there, but plan around it. Even when as the kids even start growing, they will always be in the picture somehow. So you have to perfect that as a couple, really. As a married couple, you must perfect that till they are of the age where you can tell them, you guys should not come to our room the next 2 hours. If you are not, if they are not at that stage, you guys must plan around them. Give them something to watch, something to do. Make sure your door has lock. Things like that. But plan around it. And sex mustn't always be in the bedroom. Spice it up. It can be anywhere else. In the house or anywhere that is safe. But it's okay to spice it up. Don't let it be boring and only on the bed and only at night. It can be any time of the day, depending on your schedule. What works for you.
What advice can you give to a military wife whose husband is mostly emotionally disconnected from intimacy? So maybe this person has a spouse who has been in some kind of, I don't want to say war, but something that has created this emotional disconnect. What do you advise?
Well, the truth is that those things are not so uncommon, and it mustn't even be a military situation. Some people, it's even other domestic stuff that is causing the distance. We just have to bridge the gap. We have to find out why. Like I said, you can't shoot on the solution until you know the why. So when we find out why he's distant, why he's going through that, we can start to approach it. But you see, never underestimate prayer. Sometimes we become so comfortable, we just think we have all it takes to solve problems. But, little things can make something go right or go wrong. So never underestimate the place of prayer and place of bringing God into your marriage and into your relationship. So things like that, sometimes you might need to pray. Maybe it might not be something you can do to help. Maybe he needs to get that help from somebody else. Maybe he'll go somewhere, somebody will talk with him, he'll watch something, he will see something that will start the process of healing, back in his heart, because you might not be able to know what's even going on. So pray, and if you can talk in a non-judgmental way, in a non-threatening way. It's not like you're demanding, but just have conversations, let the person ease up and be able to share what they're going through and why they're feeling distant. Because apart from sex, being distant will also affect other aspects of that marriage, and there's nothing as bad as living your whole life in a loveless, situation. It's just not the best.
Thank you so much. If everybody in the chat, I don't know if we can't see you, but please give him a round of applause. Please give him a
Thank you.
thumbs up. Thank you so much, Pastor Kingsley. We appreciate your word. People were delivered today. I can tell you that.
I'm happy to hear that.